Penguin Random House Audio presents The Slaughterman's Daughter by Yaniv Iczkovits. Translated from the Hebrew by Or Sharf. Read for you by Tovah Feldshuh. For my daughters Daria and Alona. The Asielda River. From Hamagid. Issue number 6, Thursday, the 2nd of Adar, 5654, February the 8th, 1894. The cry of a miserable woman. I implore the honorable readers to pity me, a lonely and despondent woman, because my husband has left me and our 3 healthy children during Pesach, just 5 years after our marriage. As he was making his way to Pinsk to earn our bread, he sent for me and I followed him until Sukkot. Now he has vanished without a trace, and I was told that he was seen in a hotel in Minsk, and later he was spotted in a railway carriage bound for Kiev, whereas I am left with nothing, dispirited and beleaguered, stripped of my possessions, penniless, with no one to come to my aid. Therefore, honorable readers, I ask if perhaps one of you knows of my husband's whereabouts. Have mercy upon me, and at least obtain from him a duly signed writ of divorce. I am prepared to give money, up to 150 rubles, to whoever releases me from my husband's yoke. These are his details. His name is Meyer Yankel Hirsch, of the town of Drogichen. He is now 24 years of age, of average height, with brown, curly hair, fair beard, green eyes, and has a mother and a brother in the town of Uzliane. I, the complainant, am Esther Hirsch, daughter of Shlomo Weiselfish, righteous man of blessed memory. 1. Poor Esther Hirsch, Menda Speisman thinks, as she lies on her back and tucks the wrinkled clipping from Hamagid under the mattress. 3 healthy fledglings she's got? She said so herself. 150 rubles in her pocket, at least. Not so shabby. Then why the rush to put an advert in the paper? Why give out her name and the name of her family so publicly? With that kind of money, one could hire a Gentile investigator, a fearless brute who would pursue her Mare Yankel and not give the man a moment's peace, even in his dreams, and knock out all his teeth, save one for toothaches. Menda pulls out the clipping again, careful not to move the shoulder on which her son Yankele is sleeping. She stretches slightly to relieve her cramped neck, which her daughter Mirel has been jabbing with her elbows. The heavy breathing of her in-laws, may they live long, drifts in from the next room. Soon, Menda knows, she must get up, light the stove, dress her children while they are still half asleep, and serve them a bit of milk in a tin bowl with grains of spelt. They will complain about the stale taste as they always do, and she will ask Ruchela, her mother-in-law, for a teaspoon of sugar, just one for the children to share. And Ruchela will look back at her with disapproval that stretches her wrinkled face and scold, "No sugar, nit, the party is over." But after a few moments she will sigh in resignation. Every morning, a single teaspoon of sugar is grudgingly brought out. And what is it about this notice of the loss suffered by poor Esther Hirsch that has made Menda check and reread it constantly for the past fortnight? Although she would never admit it, this advertisement gives her pleasure, as do the 2 others that ran in a previous issue of Hamagid, one entitled A Cry for Help, and the other Urgent Appeal, and the dozens of other similar notices that keep coming day after day from across the Pale of Settlement. Women who have been left behind, women chained to a husbandless marriage, miserable women, schlemazel women abandoned by their husbands with deceitful assurances and charades. One husband leaves for America, die Goldene Medina, with promises to bring the family over to New York. Another sails for Palestine to be burned by the sun. A man tells his wife he is going into town to learn a trade, only to be swept up in the intellectual circles of Odessa. A father swears to his daughters that he will come back with a hefty dowry, and all of a sudden, one hears that he is kissing the mezuzahs of Kiev bordellos. Menda knows that only fools find consolation in the knowledge that others suffer the same woes as they, and yet contentment steals over her as she reads, overcoming any sentiment of feminine solidarity that she might have felt with these women. She is not like them. She will never be like them. She has not rushed off to publish advertisements. She has not complained to the leaders of the community. And she has not circulated descriptions of Svimer Speisman, the man who tore her life to pieces. She will never do any of this. Menda's limbs are aching, even though she is still in bed, as if she has strained herself in her sleep. The sour odor of sweat wafts in from the room of her elderly in-laws, God bless them. Even the reek of her husband's parents is cause for thanking the Blessed Holy One. True, their house is only a dark, dilapidated old cabin of rotting wood with 2 small rooms and a kitchen. But the walls are sealed against drafts, and it has a clay floor, wooden roof shingles, and thick-paned windows. And sometimes a small living space can be an advantage, particularly if the kitchen stove has to heat the entire house. True, chicken is never served here, and the Friday night fish cakes contain little by way of fish and plenty by way of onion. But borscht and rye bread are served every lunchtime, and cholent stew without meat on Shabbos is not so terrible. The Speismans could easily have turned their backs on Menda. After all, they couldn't stand their son, Svimer, as it was. When he was young, they had hoped that he would make them proud, and they sent him to the illustrious Voloshin Yeshiva with the notion that he should become one of its top students. But after his first year, they heard that their son was openly declaring that the yeshiva's rabbis were all hypocrites, and that the Vilna Gaon himself would have been ashamed of them. They are a bunch of good-for-nothing wastrels, Svimer said, no more than dishonest schemers masquerading as hachuchamim. So Svimer left Volozhin, declaring that he would be better off as a poor peddler than a Torah sage, if being a sage meant that he had to be officious, greedy, and aloof. This change of career notwithstanding, Svimer still found plenty of reasons to blame and complain. He would bring his peddler's cart to the market, but never encourage passers-by to buy his wares. He would stand there, like the congregation's rabbi, convinced that people would flock to his cart as they flocked to synagogue on Shabbos. But the congregants walked on by, thinking, if he does not behave like a vendor, why should I behave like a customer? So the Speisman household was one of the poorest in Motel. By the time Svimer abandoned his wife and children, they had already hit rock bottom. They lit their house with oil instead of candles, and ate rye bread with unpeeled potatoes. When Menda tried to reason with her husband and give him business advice, he told her, when the hen starts crowing like a rooster, it is time to take her to the slaughterhouse. That is, never you mind. Heaven forfend, there's nothing more to add. Pressure on her chest is disrupting Menda's breathing. Her children cling to her on her narrow bed. She keeps her body still, lest her fledglings awake, as her soul cries out, why are these children my concern, only to be immediately beset by guilt? God Almighty, my poor babies, heaven protect them. And she prays to the good God that he leave her body intact so that she can provide for her children and offer them a place to rest their heads, and that he unburden her from the heretical thoughts that rise in her mind like the Azielda in springtime, as it overflows and floods the plains of Polesha, turning them into black marshes. Another indigent morning lies in wait for her, and the children begging at the gates of dawn. Yankele will go to the cheder, and Mirel will help her with the housekeeping at the Goldschmidt residence on Market Street, where the rich of Motel live. Together they will scrub the floor tiles of the jeweler's opulent stone house, and once again they will ogle Mrs. Goldschmidt's pearl necklace worth 3,000 rubles, the value of an entire lifetime of only just making ends meet. From there they will go on to more of the same at the Tobiksman household, and then they will walk to the tavern. Perhaps they will need a hand there too, and perhaps Yisroel Tate, the landlord, will treat Menda to another old issue of Hamagid that no one wants to read anymore. Cloths and rags, scourers and buckets, floor tiles and ovens, tin bowls and sinks. And so their fingernails peel away the time, one house after another. The smell of
Sample complete. Ready to continue?